Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 21st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Showers this morning, steady rain this afternoon, the high 57. Tonight and overnight, more rain, low 50. And then Thursday, more rain, clouds, pop-up showers, high 54. Those temps awfully low. If you are walking out the door with us right now, 52 and cloudy in Southampton out on Long Island. It's 56 and cloudy in Eatontown over in New Jersey. And it's 55 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
The Justice Department wants to know if Andrew Cuomo lied to Congress. The feds want New York to pull the plug on congestion pricing today. Harlem rocked by another teen shooting. Cops collar another subway shover. And an NYPD cop finally gets the respect he deserves. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. Today is the deadline set by the Trump administration for Governor Hochul to cancel congestion pricing or lose some federal funding. It comes as data shows traffic is actually increased in the congestion zone. The latest stats from the MTA show there were about 410,000 vehicles entering the congestion zone on the first day of its launch. But over the weekend, that number jumped to 524,000. It's 100,000 cars more. And of course, drivers, especially people who drive taxis, things like that, they have noticed.
You pay a lot of money for congestion fee. And the traffic not change. It's a mess.
Now, the MTA says the average vehicle entries in April were still 12% less than before congestion pricing. But, of course, now you're getting slapped with $9 to go into the congestion zone. The Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, wants the program canned by today. He wrote to Governor Hochul saying that the $9 toll is a breach of promise made to hardworking American taxpayers whose gas taxes have funded the existing federal aid highway system in the area. He went on to say non-compliance could lead to no approvals for big-time projects here in Manhattan unless they're for essential safety. So that threat's on the table. Former City DOT Commissioner Sam Schwartz, he tells CBS that the threat from the feds is real and could slow down some road and highway projects here.
Jobs like 2nd Avenue subway or other transit jobs. And there was even in the Secretary's letter a threat to highway funds. That includes the BQE in Brooklyn, the Cross Bronx Expressway.
Governor Hochul pushing back, saying congestion pricing is lawful, that she's not going to turn off the camera. She says it's been effective. Traffic down. She says business is up. Now, some businesses saying, business is up. But then we're hearing from others that say they've seen like a 10% drop in customers since congestion pricing began. There are a lot of people who love this, by the way. There are a lot of people who hate it, but there's also a lot of people who love congestion pricing, especially people who have businesses outside the Lincoln and Holland tunnels who say they've seen things get better there because there's just not as much traffic coming through.
There's been a reduction in the days of intense congestion.
We're definitely seeing that change, which is wonderful for everyone's sort of sanity, not hearing honking all the time.
All right, so that line in the sand is today from the Department of Transportation. Governor Hochul shows no sign of coming close to turning off those cameras. 5:03. The Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation now into Andrew Cuomo.
Cuomo is being investigated after congressional Republicans accused him of lying to Congress about pandemic decisions he made while governor. A spokesperson said Cuomo testified truthfully to the best of his recollection, calling the charges, quote, lawfare and election interference ahead of next month's mayoral primary. The investigation began about a month ago, 2 months after the Trump Justice Department ordered the dismissal of a corruption indictment against current mayor Eric Adams. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
WABC News Time 5:04. FAA continues to investigate these outages at Newark Airport. Of course, all this a little more frightening ahead of Memorial Day weekend. Correspondent Eric McLaughlin reports on this latest outage. It just lasted a couple seconds, but it's on top of others.
The latest incident raising more questions about safety as the FAA scrambles to upgrade Newark's unstable telecom lines after a series of disruptive radar and radio outages in recent weeks.
Of course, we've been talking about this story for weeks now. Decades-old communication equipment, staffing problems that have led the FAA to reduce arrivals now to 28 an hour. And then that'll be for the next couple weeks, June 15th. I'm not sure why they set that deadline. Then it'll increase back to 34. But at some point, Newark Airport was taking 70 flights in and out per hour. So that's how much things have slowed down at the airport.
The FAA is investigating what happened when the Newark Tracon lost radio frequencies for 2 seconds, noting all aircrafts remained safely separated and operations were normal.
All right, so if you have a flight coming in and out of Newark now, they're telling us, we'll find out if there's a lot of cancellations again today, whether they're telling us that you will get off the ground. But of course, people who are at the airport, maybe trying to get away early for the long 3-day weekend, are a little worried about this.
I might change my future flights to Philly instead of Newark.
There shouldn't be outages at all, but that's what it's come to.
And then there was a near miss at LaGuardia, so it's just been a mess over the last couple weeks at the airports. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's promising he's going to fix something that is old, archaic. The system, it may take years to do so, but trying to fix things faster, of course, at Newark, because it's one of the biggest hubs, airports in the nation. And while we're talking about Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, he's making it a requirement now for commercial truck drivers to be fluent in English.
Under the new guidance, drivers who don't meet the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's English language proficiency requirements will be placed out of service. Duffy saying Americans are a lot safer on roads alongside truckers who can understand and interpret our traffic signs. He calls it a common sense change and says the penalty for failing to comply will be more than a slap on the wrist. The announcement building on President Trump's April executive order outlining the policy. It rescinds a mandate from former President Obama that prevented enforcement officers from placing non-English speaking drivers out of service. James Flippin for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 5:08. President Trump calling for Republican lawmakers to pass his so-called Big Beautiful Bill. He attended a House Republican conference meeting on Capitol Hill yesterday, and he says progress is being made.
Yeah, that was a meeting of love. Let me tell you, that was love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love.
The bill has cleared the GOP-led budget committee in the House. That was on Sunday. President Trump says he's helping bridge the gap for anybody who may have doubts about this bill.
There were a couple of things that we talked about specifically where some people felt a little bit one way or the other, not a big deal. And I covered them. It wasn't so much a speech. I covered certain points. So we're going to cut drug prices from 75 to 85, in some cases even more than that.
But the Democrats, of course, you might be not surprised to hear they're blasting this budget proposal, claiming it'll make the nation less healthy.
It has the largest cut to health care in U.S. history.
That's Congressman Ted Lieu, who says cuts to Medicaid being made in order to give a tax break to billionaires. A report out this week from the UC Berkeley Labor Center predicts the state will lose up to 217,000 jobs if President Trump's beautiful bill passes. That includes jobs at hospitals, clinics, nursing homes, home cares. That's what Democrats are claiming.
It's going to kick off approximately 14 million people off of health care. And why are they doing this? To impose the largest tax cut for billionaires in U.S. history.
WABC News Time 5:10. President Trump wants the U.S. to have a Golden Dome defense system up and running in 3 years. He outlined his plans for the missile defense system in an announcement from the Oval Office alongside Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
Once fully constructed, the Golden Dome will be capable of intercepting missiles even if they are launched from other sides of the world, and even if they're launched from space.
The Golden Dome is the president's vision for a cutting-edge missile shield that can protect the U.S. from long-range strikes. He says the final price tag for the system would be around $175 billion. The president is appointing the Space Force General to lead the project.
Canada has called us, and they want to be a part of it, so we'll be talking to them. They want to have protection also. So, as usual, we help Canada do the best we can. We will truly be completing the job that President Reagan started 40 years ago, forever ending the missile threat to the American homeland, and the success rate is very close to 100%, which is incredible when you think of it. You're shooting bullets out of the air.
And while reporters were at the White House yesterday, of course, they were peppering them with questions about President Biden's cancer diagnosis and what the president was aware of and not aware of when he was in the White House. And there's all this new information that's come out. Jake Tapper has a new book out about what was going on during the Biden administration, what was being hidden from us. And President Trump is suggesting that former President Biden was not in charge while he was in office, made the claim yesterday.
This government was illegally run for 4 years.
He also claimed an auto pen was used to sign legislation that Biden wouldn't be able to because he wasn't with it. Trump's comments come days after it was revealed Biden has been diagnosed with prostate cancer. And as these books come out,
when Joe Biden was with it, he would never have approved it. You take a look. He would have never approved open borders. You know who signed it? Radical left lunatics that were running our country, and the auto pen signed it. And they didn't want him, and they were disappointed in getting him because they wanted Bernie Sanders. And then after about 2 weeks, they said, wait a minute, this is a gift.
And CNN's Jake Tapper, he has this new book out. He says it's a tragedy what was going on in the White House. He says one of the first tragedies that he uncovers in this book is that the vice president may have been sort of out of it even earlier on than we initially thought. Of course, a lot of us knew something was going on, right? You sort of would see him at these press conferences and he seemed a little off, but his aides would just say it was age and that he was fine behind closed doors. And then we saw him, of course, in that debate in 2024, in June of 2024, and you were like, oh, no, something's really going on here. So his book, and I want to give him a free commercial, but it goes into great detail that the aides, and they talked to a lot of aides and people who are around President Biden, knew about this a number of years ago. I guess you have to read the book to find out why they kept quiet about it. Maybe it was just access to power. 5:13, Secretary of State Marco Rubio facing a grilling yesterday from Democratic senators in D.C. in a Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing. Rubio clashing with Senator Chris Van Hollen, who's from Maryland.
And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job. Based on what I know.
Well, that's just a flippant statement, Mr. Secretary.
Can I respond, Mr. Chairman?
The main argument between them was the deportation of alleged criminals back to El Salvador. Van Hollen recently visited El Salvador to advocate for the release of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was deported and imprisoned. Democrats and some Republicans claim Abrego Garcia was denied due process. Rubio says he has no regrets at all about deporting him. This was the back and forth they had in D.C. yesterday.
We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear in the days to come.
Mr. Chairman,
who you went to defend.
I'm sorry, Mr.
And not too far away, Department of Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem defending the potential suspension of habeas corpus. In a Senate hearing yesterday, Democratic Senator from New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan, asked Noem to define legal right to due process.
A constitutional right that the president has to be able to remove people from this country and suspend their right to...
Let me stop you, ma'am. Habeas corpus, excuse me, that's incorrect.
Yeah, Trump administration has floated suspending the legal right to due process to help with its crackdown on illegal immigration. Now, Noem later said she supports habeas corpus and added she also recognizes the president's right to suspend it. All right, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Hump Day. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Hump Day. Good morning to you, Noam Layden. We'll start looking ahead to tonight. The countdown is almost over. The Knicks welcome in the Indiana Pacers tonight at 8 p.m. 4.5-point favorites for Game 1 of their Eastern Conference Finals series. And, we're all going to be couch-locked for that one.
What time does that one start?
8 p.m. tip tonight.
Okay.
All right. So
they really need to get it on a little earlier so we can watch the game.
Well, 7 p.m. would be,
it would be nice.
Ideal.
Even 6 would be great.
Yeah, well... Send a letter.
How about 4 in the afternoon? That'd be awesome.
Right.
We could watch the whole thing and then go to bed.
That would be beautiful, huh?
Yeah.
Come on, do it for the overnighters. Do it for the morning show team. Let's go. Last night on the hardwood, though, the Thunder beat the Timberwolves 114-88. They take a 1-0 series lead in the Western Conference Finals. To the MLB in the Bronx, Aaron Judge hit a 2-run homer. Rookie Will Warren struck out a career-high 10, and the Yankees beat the Texas Rangers 5-2. Ben Rice also went deep for the Yankees in the opener of a 3-game series between the past two American League champions. Anthony Volpe blooped an RBI double after Rice drove in the first 2 runs. New York has won 9 of 12 to move a season-best 9 games over 500. Judge made it 5-0 in the 8th with a 326-foot fly, the shortest homer of his career, that landed just inside the right field foul pole at Yankee Stadium. It was the 16th home run this season for Judge, who began the night tied for the AL lead. Rice sent a solo home run, solo shot into the second deck, and right off starter Patrick Corbin in the second for his 10th home run. Warren allowed 5 hits, 1 walk over 5 2/3 innings to win his second consecutive decision. Yankees outfielder Cody Bellinger extended his hitting streak to a career best 14 games with a pop fly, a single in the 4th that helped set up Rice's sac fly. Up next for the Yanks, the lefty Ryan Yarbrough gets the start in tonight's Game 2 of 3 against Texas. First pitch scheduled for 7:05 p.m. from Yankee Stadium in Boston. The Mets dropped the middle game of their series against the Red Sox. Final score 2-0. They've now lost 3 straight for the first time this season. They had been the only Major League team not to lose 3 in a row thus far. Clay Holmes had a shutout going through 4 innings, but ran into trouble in the 5th. Holmes pitched 6 innings, allowing 2 runs on 4 hits and 3 walks while striking out 5. He did not allow a home run in his first 7 starts, but has been tagged for 5 in his last 3 outings. Up next for the Mets, Tyler Megill gets a start in tonight's series finale against the Red Sox. First pitch is scheduled for 6:45 p.m. from Boston. Mets trying to avoid a sweep there. And to the ice here in Omeleden. Lastly, in the NHL, the Panthers beat the Hurricanes last night 5-2. They take a 1-0 series lead in that Eastern Conference Final. That is your sports, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
WABC News Time 5:20 down to D.C. President Trump's health secretary giving Capitol Hill lawmakers an update on the measles outbreak that started around Lubbock, Texas, in that area anywhere, has spread to a handful of other states.
The best way to prevent the spread of measles is through vaccination.
But Kennedy Jr. said in this Senate hearing yesterday that the current outbreak is sitting at about 1,035 cases, but he says it's slowing down. Just 24 cases were added in the last couple days.
We urge people to get their MMR vaccines.
In fact, in Canada, RFK Jr. says a measles outbreak there is double what we are seeing here. He was also yesterday talking about the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. He says, RFK Jr., that it'll be a wake-up call to the UN. Kennedy says he sent a pre-recorded message to the World Health Assembly yesterday.
It isn't that President Trump and I have lost interest in international cooperation. Not at all. We just want it to happen in a way that's fair and efficient and transparent for all the member states.
Kennedy criticized the WHO as becoming mired in bureaucratic bloat, entrenched paradigms, conflicts of interest, international power.
My share of the organization's funding historically, other countries such as China have exerted undue influence over its operations in ways that serve their own interests and not particularly the interests of the global public.
Yeah, Kennedy claimed the organization worked with China to promote that idea that COVID originated from bats rather than from a Chinese government-sponsored research lab in Wuhan. So he says that's one of the reasons they're pulling back. But he says the president, the White House, will still work with the other nations on their health systems.
I would like to take this opportunity to invite my fellow health ministers around the world into a new era of cooperation. we don't have to suffer the limits of a moribund WHO.
Yeah, you might remember back on his first day in the White House, the president signed an executive order that announced the country's intention to withdraw from the World Health Organization. Down to New Orleans at 522, a group of New Orleans prison escapees still on the run this morning, days after breaking out of the county lockup. Sheriff Susan Hulson got a grilling from the city council in New Orleans yesterday. They wanted answers.
As your sheriff, I take full accountability for this failure.
Now, so what we're finding out, it was an inside job. One jail worker's been arrested. He's accused of turning off the water in the jail cell, allowing the inmates to rip out a toilet and tear a hole in the wall. 4 other jail workers have been suspended. The manhunt continues for the remaining 6 inmates.
The escape of 10 individuals is unacceptable.
New Orleans Police Superintendent says that 4 of the inmates have been caught. They're closing in on the other 6.
Most of them that we believe are still within the city limits.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing if they are still in the city limits, because it was last Friday that they escaped. You sort of wonder how they're getting about.
They are going to be sent to a state penitentiary.
Yeah, they'll have a harder time getting out if they try a second time. That's assuming that they find them, which they have not yet. 523. The death toll from last weekend's tornado in southeastern Kentucky, thankfully, was unchanged, but there were a lot of deaths.
On Sunday, we got the tough news that deaths from this storm had risen to 19, with the addition of a woman from Russell County. That's where we still are today.
8 tornado victims remain in the hospital. 2 are in critical condition, 2 in serious condition. Meanwhile, authorities were ordering last night the evacuation of some neighborhoods because another storm system approached. Now, this definitely wasn't as bad as what took place over the weekend.
The 8 counties that we've requested individual assistance, we have projectiles that could cause anyone and everyone harm, whether their home is still standing or not. We also have structures that may not be able to stand up to that extra wind.
Now, what we're being told, at least as of this morning, no mass destruction in Kentucky. We'll check, of course, when daylight hits. 524. A digital forensics expert concluding what was a really tense cross-examination in the Karen Reed murder retrial up in Massachusetts. Now, this is video I would tell you to go watch, because, boy, is it good. Even if you have no interest in the trial whatsoever, don't know what's going on, watch what they did to Shannon Burgess, who was grilled by the defense lawyers about discrepancies in his resume. I guess he put that he had a Bachelor of Science in from a local college, and it ended up he did not have that, and apparently has been working on his Bachelor of Science degree for like 13 years.
It states BS in mathematics and business administration, correct?
That's what it states there, yes.
And you do not have a Bachelor of Science in mathematics and business administration, do you?
No, I do not.
Oh, boy, they just teared that poor guy apart. 525. Pro-democracy groups are marking Cuba's Independence Day with a rally. There was a big one last night, pressuring the dictatorship there to get out of the communist island. Rafael Montalval, who's with the Bay of Pigs Assault Brigade veterans, says if anyone can make it happen, move communists out of Cuba, it would be President Trump.
They are nothing. They're inept. They don't know what to do. They're destroying a country. A country that was one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America is now one of the poorest countries in the world.
This group believes that President Trump could help restore the island into a first-class destination like it was so many years ago.
The goal is that we put enough pressure on the Cuban government that the people, and we facilitate the exit of all the people in government there. And then we introduce a temporary period of transition where we can have free elections.
Yeah, at one point, you remember Cuba was one of the wealthiest nations one of the wealthiest nations around. Now, of course, it's one of the poorest nations around. Texas, looking to criminalize the possession of a sex doll that's designed to look like a child. Who even knew they had such a thing? A state legislative hearing yesterday turned emotional as they were talking about this.
I think that's disgusting.
Yeah.
It is disgusting.
It's dirty.
It's sickening.
It would make owning one of these lifelike dolls a state jail felony. One of the senators who authored the bill says it's an important step in the battle to crack down on child sex crimes. Of course, who's building these dolls? I mean, the whole thing is just gross.
They're used for grooming people to actually assault children at the end result.
Yeah, not clear if this will pass the legislature in Texas.
The Brooklyn Bridge and
77 WABC.
Both are real New York. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah.
On 77 WABC.
Yep, that's me. Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 21st. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Showers this morning. Then we're going to see some steady rain this afternoon. The high only 57. Tonight and overnight, more rain, low 50, and an even cooler for Thursday. Cloudy in the morning, pop-up showers in the afternoon. The high only 54. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 52 and cloudy in Southampton, out on Long Island. 56 and cloudy in Eatontown over in New Jersey. And it's 54 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 5:39. Let's head up to Yonkers, where apparently there is a murder mystery today. The investigation continues after a 79-year-old woman was found dead inside her apartment. Now, this was Friday inside the Bronxville Ridge Apartments on Bronx River Road. The plumber had shown up to do some work on this woman's apartment, and nobody was answering the door, and there was some thought that maybe something was going on in the apartment. So the super let himself into the apartment, and that's when he found this woman dead on the floor.
He said I was not around, but the next day he came back and spoke to my daughter and left his business card. So I decided to go and check the apartment, and when I went in, she was on the floor.
Now, when police first arrived, they did this routine investigation, and they called her death what they call an unattended death, meaning that there was nothing necessarily suspicious about what had happened, that maybe she had just died, 79 years old. But a further investigation now, over the weekend, reveals this woman had body injuries that were consistent with some sort of assault.
She was not a person that was very communicative with the neighbors. She was always kept to herself.
Yeah, and days later now, the people in this building, which is a quiet building up in Yonkers, say that, of course, they're freaked out to think that this woman may have been murdered.
This is a really vibrant community, so it's really concerning to hear that.
Right now, I feel devastated.
Yeah, so what we know about her is they haven't even revealed her name. Psychologist. Nobody was sure how long she had lived in the complex because they say she kind of kept to herself. The Justice Department conducting a criminal investigation into former Governor Andrew Cuomo, who, of course, is the leading contender in the race for mayor, over his testimony to Congress last year about the pandemic. House Republicans apparently had requested this federal investigation, arguing that Cuomo lied to an House Oversight Committee last year when he said he had not been involved in reviewing a report from the New York Department of Health about the state's handling of the pandemic when he was governor. Now, Justice Department spokesman not saying much last night. The New York Times was the first to report this investigation last night. The Cuomo campaign quick to respond. They say they had never been informed of any such matter. They want to know why someone would leak it now, and they say the answer is obvious, that Cuomo is involved in a race for mayor. They say they're trying to put their thumb on the scale of the race here in New York. The spokesman defended Cuomo's congressional testimony, saying that Governor Cuomo testified truthfully to the best of his recollection about the events from 4 years earlier and offered to address any follow-up questions from the subcommittee. But so far, there's no charges against the governor. Let me point that out. This is some sort of criminal investigation. Nobody has been charged yet, but I'm sure more details will come out during the course of the day. 5:42, we go from Washington up to Harlem, where a 15-year-old boy shot multiple times during now what police say was a gang-related shooting Monday outside a NYCHA complex. The teen was shot in front of the King Towers NYCHA building. This was 2 p.m. He was taken to the hospital. He's still in critical condition. And the NYPD has now set up and sent up one of their members of the clergy who's on the force. And he's been walking around the neighborhood talking to everyone to say, hey, cool it. Enough with the gunfire.
We don't tolerate senseless shootings in our community. We don't tolerate it in this city. And when you shoot somebody, there is consequences.
Now, what police sources are saying is this is a war of 2 rival gangs at this NYCHA complex, like building versus building, which is, of course, to normal people sounds just outrageous.
So you got this project against that project against this project, and most of these kids are shooting at each other and missing the target and shooting the wrong person.
Yeah, I mean, how about just playing basketball against each other? But maybe I'm being naive. Police say 2 males in dark-colored clothing fled on an e-bike after the incident. There have been no arrests. And this teen, the 15-year-old, in the hospital fighting for his life today. And neighbors say, you know, and they, as they always do when they see these shootings in certain neighborhoods, they say just enough.
We have to step up as individuals, adults, and take the community back. If not, they're going to continue to shoot and kill our kids. And it's so disheartening.
Yeah, I bet it is. 543. Up in Westchester County yesterday, family and friends of that football coach who was killed in a crash on the Taconic last week were remembering him at his wake. The line for the wake was out the door and down the street throughout the afternoon as people came to remember Robert Violante. Family and friends and even students and football players he coached were there. He was the coach at Bergenfield High School in New Jersey. And just everybody, of course, upset over his death. If you weren't following this story, he was on the Taconic last week driving home from work when a driver going the other way crossed the median and slammed head on to him. 3 people in the van that slammed into the car were killed along with the football coach.
What we are trying to do is show massive support for the family, for the staff members at the high school, and the students that were affected greatly by it.
Yeah, the football players were even wearing their uniforms as they showed up to this wake yesterday. All right, 545. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. We'll start with a look ahead. 8 p.m. tonight at MSG. The Knicks will welcome in the Indiana Pacers for Game 1 of their Eastern Conference Finals series. They are 4.5-point favorites in Game 1. The Knicks, that is. Last night in the NBA from OKC, the Thunder beat the Timberwolves 114-88 to take a 1-0 series lead in the Western Conference Finals. To the Bronx on the Nyman, Aaron Judge hit a 2-run homer. Rookie Will Warren struck out a career-high 10, and the Yankees beat the Texas Rangers 5-2. Banner Rice also went deep for the Yanks in the opener of a 3-game series between the past 2 AL champs. Anthony Volpe blooped an RBI double after Rice drove in the first 2 runs. New York has won 9 of 12 to move a season-best 9 games over 500. Judge made it 5-0 in the 8th with a 326-foot fly, the shortest homer of his career, that landed just inside the right field foul pole at Yankee Stadium. It was the 16th home run this season for Judge, who began the night tied for the AL lead. Rice sent a solo shot into the second deck in right off starter Patrick Corbin in the second for his 10th home run. Warren allowed 5 hits and 1 walk over 5 2/3 innings to win his second consecutive decision. The Yankees outfielder Cody Bellinger extended his hitting streak to a career-best 14 games with a pop fly single in the 4th that helped set up Rice's sac fly. Up next for the Yanks, the lefty Ryan Yarbrough gets to start in tonight's Game 2 of 3 against Texas. First pitch scheduled for 7:05 from the stadium. In Boston, the Mets dropped the middle game of their series against the Red Sox. Final score 2-0. They've now lost 3 straight for the first time this season. They had been the only Major League team not to lose 3 in a row thus far. Clay Holmes had a shutout going through 4 innings, but ran into trouble in the 5th. Clay Holmes pitched 6 innings, allowing 2 runs on 4 hits and 3 walks. While striking out 5, Holmes did not allow a home run in his first 7 starts, but has been tagged for 5 in his last 3 outings. Up next for the Mets, Tyler McGill gets to start in tonight's series finale against the Red Sox. Sox. First pitch scheduled for 6:45 from Boston. And on the ice last night, the Panthers beat the Hurricanes 5-2. Florida there takes a 1-0 series lead in the Eastern Conference Final. That's your Sports Gnome. I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. And an arrest and criminal charges now for a man police say snuck past security and took an MTA bus for a joyride yesterday.
It happened around 12:20 a.m. Tuesday at the Ulmer Park Bus Depot in Bath Beach, Brooklyn. Police say Jose Santiago drove the bus around the corner before the 32-year-old crashed it into a parked car. Channel 7 reports the bus's driver was on board as it happened and tried to stop Santiago but couldn't. The driver's been suspended pending a review. Santiago's charged with burglary, grand larceny, reckless endangerment, and about 6 other crimes. Andrew Whitman, NBC News Radio, New York.
5:49, 2 men, including one victim in his 70s, both shoved onto the subway tracks. This is at the Whitehall station yesterday. The man accused of pushing them, he's under arrest. The platform full of people when this took place. One of the victims was Babukar Balde. He says he thought he was going to die. He was punched in the shoulder so hard that he was thrown down onto the tracks. Random slugging. He said he didn't see this guy until he was right up on top of him.
When I arrived, he just tried to hit me. I was not expecting he gonna hit me like that, with a big force like that. I never see that guy. You have to keep him and ask him why, the motive.
Yeah, Baldy was the second to get necked down on the tracks inside the Whitehall station. The first was a 71-year-old who broke his elbow. Now, both of these men were able to get themselves back up on the tracks, but then this guy came back at them. I mean, thankfully, they're both going to be okay, and this sicko who shoved him onto the tracks is behind bars. But, of course, the question is for how long?
Someone can come to you and hit you like that. Yes, I will say it makes me just a little bit afraid.
But you think this is a dangerous person?
This is a dangerous person for me.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous person for me.
It sure is. 5:50, New Jersey Health Department out with an alert saying anyone who attended the Shakira concert on Thursday night at MetLife Stadium, that's like, 60,000 fans, have been exposed to measles. Officials say a non-New Jersey resident attended the May 16th concert infected with the disease. They're urging individuals, especially parents, healthcare providers, to be aware of the symptoms and to ensure that they're up to date with their measles shots. While we're in New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, who reportedly was under consideration for the Rutgers presidency, says the school's selection of William Tate IV for the role is a good choice.
I had the honor, I should say, of speaking with Bill during the process, and I was instantly and incredibly impressed. As they say in the movies, he had me at hello.
Tate, described as a renowned social scientist, has been president of Louisiana State University since 2021. So how much will he earn? $1.1 million a year when he takes the helm on July 1st. 5:52 out to Long Island. The Air Force Thunderbirds are there on Long Island ahead of the annual Jones Beach Air Show this weekend. The squadron landed yesterday afternoon at MacArthur Airport to the delight of fans.
Never gets old. Seeing the planes in person, getting to see them fly through the air, and it's just an incredible sight to see.
The Thunderbirds are the headliners of the four-leaf air show, performing aerial feats in F-16s capable of reaching the speed of sound. They expect about 350,000 people to attend this year's show.
We blind trust in each other that we'll all do our job, and the camaraderie and just the level of performance that we have together as a team is it's incredible, and you get to see it on display in real time.
Major Laney is one of the newest members of the Thunderbirds.
We hope that you feel inspired by what a team can do when everybody is focused on one core mission.
Yeah, it is one of the shows of the summer this weekend, Memorial Day weekend. 5:53. New York City's Transportation Department wants to turn Manhattan's busy 34th Street into a busway now. The DOT figures that the 14th Street busway installed 5 years ago has boosted speed by 24%. So why not create another traffic-busting busway near Penn Station?
So we think the time is really right to take this next step here on 34th Street.
That's the DOP Commissioner, Eric Beaton, who says 34th Street would be transformed into a crosstown busway just for buses and trucks, making it easier for folks to get around.
There's no way to do anything fast if you're in traffic.
Yeah, that's true. This neighborhood local says while it might be good for passengers, not so good for, of course, anybody who's behind the wheel.
As a driver, I don't think I'll be very happy.
You can't make everybody happy. It has taken almost a century, but a detective who died back in 1928 was finally given a proper burial yesterday. Detective Joseph Pocciano died of pulmonary TB and was laid to rest all those years ago in an unmarked grave in the Greenwood Cemetery. For nearly 100 years, nobody knew who was buried at that unmarked grave until detectives did their own investigation and figured out who was there. So yesterday, they decided it was the right time to honor him and his family members.
He was a tough, seasoned, smart, savvy investigator, and he was dubbed for the press the master detective, the Italian Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, I like that. He was born in Italy, grew up on the Lower East Side, spoke 4 languages, Italian, English, Chinese, Albanian. He joined the NYPD in 1905, quickly rose to detective, helping to bust gangsters all over Brooklyn. His family, they were invited yesterday and were excited by the honor.
For us, the real joy is knowing my mom, his dad, and their other brother, somewhere up in heaven, they're grinning about this because they were so proud of their dad. They really were.
Yeah, I like that story. 5:55. Memorial Day weekend, sort of amazing. It's upon us. I had to ask somebody, is that this weekend? And they were like, yeah, you dope. It's this Monday. So Memorial Day, of course, is the kickoff to the summer season. And down the Jersey Shore, they're getting ready for the crowds this weekend. In Point Pleasant, it's the Arc Pub and Eatery, which has been around, I think, since the 1970s. And they say they are ready for the huge crowds. They say it's an exciting time of year for them.
Getting ready for a big summer rush and beach days and all that stuff. Great locals around here with Bayhead, Manaloking, Point Pleasant Beach, Borough. We're hoping for, the weather to be beautiful for everybody on the beach, but, just to come in, have some burgers, fresh seafood, get the summer buzz starting.
Checking in with Dominic Maruco. He owns Maruca's Tomato Pies. That's in Seaside Heights, right on the boardwalk. He says he'll have longer hours starting this weekend, and he's ready for the crowds, too.
Well, I've been doing this a long time. It's our 75th year on the boardwalk, Maruca's Tomato Pies, and I pretty much have it down to a science. As long as we get the weather, it's a big uncontrollable factor.
Yeah, of course, that's the big thing. They want the weather to be good at the Beachcomber Bar and Grill. It is just the start of the season as well. That's also in Seaside Heights, and they are hoping, keeping their fingers crossed, the weather's good and the crowds rise.
It's the start of a good season. The weather's been beautiful all lately. We're looking forward to good weather this weekend. It's the highlight of our season. This is like the World Series. This is the big start, kickoff.
Yeah, let's hope it's good for everybody. All right, 5:57, traffic, transit on the 7s. Here's Joe Nolan.
Spent a little time in the Beachcomber over my lifetime.
When you go in, do they yell, Joe?
No. I've been there more than a few times. Wonderful little spot as you travel there on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights.
Are you going to be sitting there this weekend?
I don't know about this weekend, but we got the Crab's Claw on Friday, and then I don't know what we're doing Saturdays. Oh yeah, I do. Saturday we have a thing at the club, and then Sunday I would get once Memorial Day hits, I got something every day. On the weekend. So
yeah, well, I hope you're able to get up for work in the morning.
Oh yeah, it's no problem.
All right, good.
Been doing that for 40 years, getting up in the morning.
That's true, you have.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?